everybody, and thank you for joining me again this morning on Next on the Tee. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro. And so far this month, I've had two of the three guys I'd want in my dream fivesome along with my father and I on the show, and that's Paul Stankowski and Bob Friend Jr. And today I get to complete the fivesome with my friend and top 100 instructor and the director of instruction at Oakmont Country Club, Eric Johnson. This is going to be Eric's third visit with me on the show, and the last two times I had so much fun talking to him, I lost complete track of time, and that's what Eric's like for me. I have so much fun talking to him that the next thing I know, the hour's up. So I look forward to getting to spend some more time with Eric this morning. We're going to get an update from him on how things are going out at Oakmont, plus his thoughts on what he's seen so far out on the tour, and hopefully a lesson or two to help us get our golf games kick-started this season. He's going to be along with me in just a moment. But before we get started, I want to welcome a new sponsor to Next on the Tee, and that's Custom Golf Bags USA. Custom Golf Bags USA is the ideal choice for corporations and individuals that want to customize their logo on high-quality golf gear. Their founder, Travis McLean, has taken his love for golf to new levels, and for golf lovers just across the world, you're going to have a great product here. They understand that everyone wants to dress like a golf professional, play like a golf professional, and now with Custom Golf Bags USA, you can have a bag like a golf professional. At Custom Golf Bags USA, they design their golf bags with the individuality of the customer in mind. They offer the best in quality and innovation by utilizing the most cutting-edge production technologies and expert workers to ensure that your bag is going to be just tip-top first class. Custom Golf Bags USA knows that top-quality custom golf bags are more than just fancy stitching and needlework and embroidery. It's the effective blend of high-quality materials, superior design, and top-notch customer service. Everything from the interior construction and structure of the bag to the outer panels is created with the utmost care and attention to detail. Why not let your clients walk the fairways promoting your company's brand, and Custom Golf Bags USA can customize a golf bag with the legacy that you want so you're not forgotten. It's your game, your way. For more information, check out their Facebook page. Again, Custom Golf Bags USA, and give those guys a like there as well. All right, I want to kick off the show like we do every week by saluting the brave men and women serving in our military. We want to thank you for your daily sacrifices and all you do to keep the rest of us safe. We also want to thank those of you who serve or have served in every branch of the military and public service. We truly appreciate what you do to preserve our freedoms and our liberties. It's through your strength and your efforts that our way of life is even possible. Our sincere thanks as well to Sean Cruz and all the folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. It's an honor for us to be a part of your network. You can find our show by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. We also want to thank everyone listening in on iHeartRadio, as well as great radio sites across the internet like Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, Player.fm, and Blog Talk Radio as well. Also want to give a shout-out to our good friends Mike Kovacs, Ben Curran, Mark Medeski, and the rest of the great staff over at LastWordOnSports.com. Check them out online and on Twitter. Their site, folks, is absolutely fantastic. Contains great content across all sports, and their staff of writers are just wonderful. You're going to love going to their site every day for your sports news. If you haven't been there yet, check it out and then bookmark it, LastWordOnSports.com. Plus, if someone's dragging you to the mall or to the grocery store, or you're just tired of the same old on your commute, download the Player.fm or Stitcher app on your smartphone and take us with you everywhere you go. Let's give you a little something fun to focus on while you're out and about. All right. Now joining me on the Custom Golf Bags USA guest line is Eric Johnson. This is Eric's third visit with us. Like I mentioned a moment ago, let me remind you about Eric's background. He was a 4-year letterman at Mississippi State, where he earned his degree in professional golf management. He remains in the Bulldogs' top 20 for the most rounds played. As I mentioned earlier, he's the director of instruction at Oakmont Country Club, been there since 2004. Golf Magazine has named him a top 100 teacher every year since 2011. He was also recognized by Golf Digest as a top 40 under 40 teacher. He is a 3-time Tri-State PGA Teacher of the Year. He is also a 2-time Horton Smith Award winner for his contributions to education. He's on the advisory staff for TaylorMade Adidas Golf. He played on the Canadian Tour, the Sunshine Tour, and the Golden Bear Tour. And like I said, along with my father, Paul Stankowski, and Bob Friend Jr., he rounds out my dream fivesome. Good morning, Eric. How have you been, my friend?
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me. What an intro. I'm not that good. I don't know where you came up with all that stuff, but thanks. That was great.
It's all true, 100%.
You always amaze me. I've never seen an interviewer that knows more about the people than I know about myself. That's unbelievable. Thanks for Custom Bags, Golf Bags USA, too, for sponsoring today's show. Appreciate it.
Absolutely right. So, Eric, I guess kind of off the top, how are things out at Oakmont? Does it get much play this time of year, or is it closed down until it starts to get a little warmer?
Yeah, we have plenty of tee times open today. It's 11 degrees, so we got about 9 inches of snow out there. So it's pretty quiet around here right now. But we've been, the course prep for the Open's been crazy. It's been hectic. It's been, we know it's coming for all these years, but we always seem like we're always, oh my God, it's coming at some. It's like it sneaks up upon you, But we've done a little different aerification, schedule this year in preparation for the golf course, and we did some verticutting, and we actually have the greens are covered this winter, which is a new thing for us because we really want to protect them, for 2016. And it's been a tough cold winter, so it's probably a very good thing that they have been, and covered all for the last couple months.
Yeah.
What else we got? We fixed the East Course. Our East Course used to be a public golf course. We've taken that and we've for infrastructure we made basically a parking lot. We flattened it out and spent a ton of money to flatten it all out and make one of the things that we didn't have here was a good parking area. So we were lucky enough to have that land and we did that. So that's pretty wild when you look at it standing off the third, tee box, and you look out there, and it's what used to be a little 18-hole public golf course is now a parking lot. Crazy, but
wow,
pretty wild.
Yeah. So to your point a moment ago, Eric, you guys are. I mean, the Open's coming to Oakmont in 2016, so it's next year. You guys are already prepping for that?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You're always in preparation for what is coming up with the USGA. From anything from tree removal to, like we said, infrastructure for parking. We started that project, we totally, it was a very hilly western Pennsylvania golf course, and, now it's pretty much a 5-degree grade and pretty flat, so, and it's a parking lot. And so, things like that you're doing in front of an Open, you're always thinking years and years and years out.
Yeah.
We took out a bunch of trees in between the turnpike and in between 12, and now you can really. I can't wait for everybody to see the TV coverage of it, and you'll be able to look from the first green all the way out to 3 green and 4, and you'll be able to see 6 from number 1. It's incredible right now. Everything's gone between 7 and the turnpike and 8. It looks incredible. So I can't wait for and they'll show it. The newscasters, they always do such a great job of showing what it used to look like and then what it looks like now. So it'll look pretty cool. I think everyone's going to like it.
Ah, very nice. So, Eric, when the Open comes back there next year, and from a prep perspective, we were talking, here, Lee Trevino once said there's only one course in the country where you could step out right now and play the U.S. Open, and that's Oakmont. Is that accurate? Let's say something crazy happened this year at Chambers Bay. 100-year flood happens that week of the tournament. Could they switch gears that fast and play the tournament at Oakmont?
I think they could. I think Lee's right. It's day in and day out. The conditioning, the rough, the greens, they're up to tour level every day, and our members expect it, we don't. They do not. I love them. They're very fussy. They're very particular about this golf course and protecting it. And they want it firm and fast, and that's it. They don't want to hear, well, we've had some rain, we've had that. They don't want to hear that. They want firm and fast. They want U.S. Open conditions all the time, which is hard to do. John Zimmer's and his staff down there, they've got a tremendous job, and protecting this old gym, and they do a good job. But our members really want to see it firm and fast, and that's the way it's supposed to be played. I think the golf world's gone a little green, meaning that we put a little too much water on everything. Everything supposed to look like Augusta and perfectly manicured, and I don't think that's really how some of the golf courses are meant to be played. Oakmont's a running golf course. It's not an in the air golf course. And we see that when it gets very, very soft and guys can slide in there and stick it, and make the ball sit down real quick, the scores, dramatically go down. When we have it firm and fast, it's a 5-shot difference, maybe 6 shots when it's firm and fast versus, obviously if you've had a big rain or something and it's wet, there's a 5 or 6 shot difference on this golf course.
Wow.
And that's not stretching it either. That's true. We can look at our SWAT scores and look at it. SWAT, we have an unbelievable game here called the SWAT. Bruce McGuff is our SWAT chairman, and we have a one best ball of the foursome or fivesome, and 0 handicap. You get an A, B, C, D player, and you have to hold one ball, and it has to go in the hole. And you'd be amazed that 71, 70, usually breaks even. That's not a bad score. When you've shot 70 around here with even 4 or 5 guys. But there's no handicap, and the ball has to go in the hole. And you'd be amazed how, that's a tough game. Tougher than what it sounds like.
Yeah.
It really is. You got 4 guys standing over you looking at you over a 3-footer. You start getting a little nervous, like, oh, guys, what if I miss this? You guys are, going to say, oh, what's wrong with this guy? It's a lot of pressure. It's funny. It's a funny game. Really cool though.
Well, and Oakmont is known predominantly for its greens, right? What do the greens typically roll out there, whether it's at a U.S. Open or just for daily play?
Yeah, we try to keep them around 11, and for the Open, this is a true story. Everyone says no, that's not a true story. This is a true story because I've been here long enough to know. I started here in 1994. I did my first internship, my last internship here with Bob Ford. And then I came back 95, 6, 7 as an assistant. So I've been around here for 20 years. I've seen the 04, I've seen the amateur, I've seen, the men's open in 7, the ladies in 10. I've been around enough to know they slow the greens down for the U.S. Open. There's no question about it.
What?
And they slow the greens down for the U.S. Open. They want to make sure it's fair, and we have slowed these greens down for the U.S. Open. That's a true story. And people say, no, it's true. That's a true story. And we've seen it where we had it one time in one of our end of the year SWAT party where the greens were rolling 15. Now,
oh my God.
Yeah. Now, when you have undulation like we have, if you missed the putt on number 2, it would go off the green. And it's if you were above the hole, you missed it coming down the hill, it would go off the green. They were totally unfair, but it was fun to see it. But I never want to play it day in and day out and try to make a score because you're punting off the greens. There's just too much undulation here, and so we can't keep them like that. But it's fun to see them that way, and they can get them there occasionally. When it's the right perfect conditions, they can get them there, especially when it's firm too. Oh my God, they go fast.
Oh no kidding, like putting on glass.
Very true.
This year, the U.S. Open is out at Chambers Bay. To me, Eric, it looks more like a British Open layout than it does a U.S. Open layout. Have you ever played out there?
No, I haven't. No, it looks very interesting though. But I think you're right. It's got a very different lengthy look, and they got that one tree, and very interesting look. We'll see what happens this year. Obviously Rory's got to be everybody's top pick. I mean, he's just playing. He's just got it on autopilot. I think it was similar to what Tiger was in 2000. I truly think that Rory is doing what Tiger was doing. I'm not sure that Rory seems as consistent with his putting as Tiger was, but his ball striking and the distance that he's hitting is just incredible. But I think if you had one thing to compare Tiger versus Rory, and versus 2000 versus Rory now, I think it might be Rory just looks a little shaky sometimes on those short putts. It's not saying all of them. When he gets on autopilot, he's as good as it gets. But he misses a few short ones where I just don't think you saw Tiger do that in 2000.
So let's That's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about this morning, Eric. Talking about instruction and Tiger and what we've seen. He's waking up this morning having missed the cut at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, and not only did he miss the cut, he shot a career worst 82 yesterday. Yeah. So it's also the first time he's been outside the top 100. In every statistical category. As an instructor, do you feel bad for Tiger's coach? I'm going to talk coach to coach now, Chris Como, because if this continues, this is going to fall, at least in part, back on him. Do you kind of feel like, I'm sorry, Chris?
Well, hey, listen, first of all, Chris is a pal of mine, and he's a great guy, great kid. He's a wonderful guy. And, I'm not sure, truthfully, when you look at it, what's the upside for Chris right now?
Right.
He's Tiger's new guy. That's great. But, at the end of the day, if he doesn't start playing better and will Chris get some of the blame? Yeah. Who's more to blame? It's more of the player, I think.
Right.
It's an instructor's job to coach. It's the player's responsibility to say, hey, I can do this or I can't do that, and this doesn't work. But I think that we might be jumping the gun a hair on this because when you think about how long it took for him, when he was working with Hank Haney, 18 months. I'm still working on one thing, and you go 18 months. How can you work 18 months on one? Come on, that's a joke. Come on, you can change that in an hour. What are you talking about? But I don't know about some of this, but but I think his swing looks better than it ever has. I'm not sure it's swing related.
Right.
First of all, I think Tiger has there's no question he has a chipping and pitching yips. There's no question.
Yep.
And I'm not sure that he doesn't have a driver yip too. And I don't mind going out and saying that. Listen, I've been through it. It goes back. When I was 16 years old, I was playing in the club championship. I was going to be the youngest champion ever. It was a big deal at the time to me. I didn't know that it wasn't a big deal, but it was to me at the time. And, I was playing along, and I've got a 36-hole final, and we've got, that was back when 50, 60 carts used to watch you play, and it was really cool. So got 50 or 60 carts and a bunch of people out there, and I'm beating this guy. I went up after 18, and we play, after 27, I'm 3 up, and, 35, I miss a 6-footer to win. So we go to the 36th hole, and I hit it right down the center, and I shanked my sand wedge into the woods, made a 6, lost on the first sudden death hole. Now, for years this went on where I would get over a sand wedge, and before I'm taking it away, I'm playing in Tennessee. We got Stuart Sink, somebody else in my group, and I'm pulling my sand wedge back, and I heard in my brain, don't shank it. Well, hey, thanks for sharing that upstairs. Where is that coming from? You're always in a, when you think about yips and you think about things like this, you're always in a little internal conversation in your own mind. Your brain's always, it's always coming up with something. And most of the time it's not, hey, you're the greatest player of all times that ever lived. It's, don't shank it, don't do this, water over there. And you got to almost say to yourself, hey, thanks for sharing that, but, geez, I'm really trying to hit a sand wedge here, So, I've gone through the yips. I've had the sand wedge yip. There was a time in my career I couldn't make an 18-inch putt. It got in my dome. And, we've all had it. I've had a bunker yip where I felt really yippy in there, and I've had a driver yip. My last year on tour, when I was playing out on the Canadian tour, I had a high right that looked like a 50 handicap, and I called it my virus, and I knew it was coming. So you're on the 17th hole. We got 2 holes left. I haven't hit the virus shot yet. It's coming, and that's the power of the brain. And to me, the brain controls that. It's 100%. It's not mechanical. That's your brain. That's the internal conversation that you're having with yourself at all times. And everybody can sit there and go, yeah, you know what? I'm sitting there talking to myself in my own head while this is all going on. Everybody has those. I mean, the greatest way I've ever heard it explained was Dr. Fred Shoemaker, famous sports psychologist. He said the thoughts in my head are like the bubbles on the bottom of a champagne glass. They just keep coming up, and that's true. And to me, that's the way the yips happen. When you're listening to that little internal conversation, and it's going, man, I keep boning these over the green, and I keep chunking these things, and wow, I don't want to do it again because I'm going to look really silly on TV. Well, that's when that stuff starts happening. And I guarantee you he's got a pitching or chipping yip. I mean, we saw that in 2007 in the U.S. Open. So the third hole, Tiger, it comes out and Aaron Badley makes triple. He throws up all over his shoes. I mean, he was terrible on the first hole and makes a triple. And Tiger's right up there by the lead. He bombs it on 3. He's got a wedge into the hole. And, that's when he was starting to lose a little bit of his distance control. Hit it just a couple paces too far. Rolls down in the collection area over 3, bones it over the green, and he sculls it over the green, and he's got a really simple little pitch, or chip coming back, and he chunked it. And it went, 8 feet. And now he's got a 40-footer. So he ends up making double. And that's what cost him the Open. It wasn't, not making birdie on 17 or 18. It was the double he made on 3. And that's what cost him the Open in 07. And we started to see that back then. Hank Haney started talking about it. His pitching, his chipping. Something's going on. And you're seeing that right now. Is that Chris Como's fault? I don't think so. And Chris is a great man and probably the right pick for him. At the time, who knows? I mean, we all kind of wonder what would ever happen if he'd never left Butch, and I think he would have 35 or 40 majors right now if he never left Butch. I mean, you can't tell me that you're going to play in 2000 and you're going to win the U.S. Open by 15 and the British by 12. That's 27 shots for 2 majors. And then say, well, I need to get better. Okay, let me think about this for a minute. Get better. We get better at what? What's won by 15? You want to win by 20? I mean, I get it. I understand. You want to perform better. That's great, but learn how to putt better. Learn how to pitch better. Don't change your golf swing. Don't change the thing that's, the way I guess the best way I can explain it is we all instinctually have something in our DNA. We have our, we have our body type, and we have our, your arm length, your legs, your torso, and we all have instinctually a pattern in which that we swing the golf club. I mean, you can look at it. You've seen it, Chris. You're standing on the 4th tee, and you look up there, and you say, oh, that's Bob up there. Yeah, that's his swing. You can tell the people's pattern. Yeah. And then when you're fighting against your pattern, and which I really think that he started to do maybe in the first change, when he started fighting against what he instinctually did, then I think that's when, your body's got a lot of conflict. And when you have conflict in your brain, that internal conversation's going, you're not going to hit golf shots. And then we go to Sean Foley, and, he's a good man as well, and I've met him, and, truthfully, it almost feels like he talks like he's been to the top of the mountain and back a little bit, and we're going to talk about, Plato and, Socrates and the guys up there and on the top of the mountain. And, I'm not sure what any of that has to do with moving a golf ball, but, very, very biomechanically driven, and that's great. And I'm not bashing on anyone. Sean, I don't want any emails from Sean saying I'm bashing. I'm not bashing. He's a great man, great instructor. Obviously, you cannot argue with his success, period. Look at the guys he teaches. I mean, they're a phenomenal success. But, it's interesting to me, and I guess my point on that, and I don't want any emails from Sean. He's a great man. Please don't email. But, when you go to a guy, and it almost seems like Tiger's trying to outsmart himself right now. You look at it, and we go from Sean Foley, one of the great smart guys in this business, and I mean truly knows his stuff. And I'm not trying to bash on Sean, but then you go to Chris, and great young guy, getting his master's in biomechanics, and it's like, wow. I mean, Tiger, did you ever swing thinking about biomechanics before? I mean, when you were in 2000, did you ever think about that? You went from Butch Harmon, who laughs and keeps you, laughing and ready, to now we're going to learn every number, every angle, every down angle, every swing path number. If you fell in love with TrackMan, do you need to know all this stuff? I mean, I just don't know that you do.
It's a lot to keep in your brain when you're trying to make a backswing, isn't it?
That's my point. Okay, well, geez, it was really steep there. It's 4 degrees here, so got to swing more this way. Hold on a second. Wait a minute. I mean, whatever happened to playing the game?
Right.
The great. Do you think Fred Couples is sitting out there thinking, geez, I wonder if I'm 4 degrees this way or 2 flat or 2 upright? I don't think so. I think he sees the ball, and I think he sees where he wants to hit it, and then he just sends it. And his body figures it out how to do it. Now, I'm not saying that, trust me, I'm not saying that, there's not a time and a place for, we have a TrackMan, and it's great. It's unbelievable knowledge. It's unbelievable statistics. It's unbelievable data. We can't argue that. But at the end of the day, it's about moving the ball. And it's about moving the ball. And, I have it on my website. And I say, in the most simplistic form that you could possibly get, you have to hit the ball in the center of the face. That's number one. I don't care how you do it. You got to hit it in the center of the face, and it's got to repeat. Number two, you got to start the ball online. Now, there's no front page news here. I'm not reinventing the wheel. You got to hit it solid, then it's got to start where you want it. And then ultimately it has to curve towards the hole, which direction you want it. And when you think about it, it doesn't need to get more difficult than that. I don't think that we need to know, and this is just me here, but I don't think in the 4/1000th of a second that the ball touches the face that we need to worry about the path, the face, the down angle, the acceleration rate, the closure of the toe. I don't think we need to know that. I mean, to me, for a great teacher can look at that and say, okay, yeah, that's why he's doing that. But for a player, when it comes down to a player and they're trying to play, I just don't think you're thinking about that stuff. I mean, I never could do it in my career. If I had a backswing and a through swing thought, I might be having a tough week. I mean, when you're out there playing, I just don't think you can think about that many things. I think that you have to be in a position where you're just on autopilot and you're letting the ball go. And then when you're not playing good, you got to know which way you're going to miss it. You see Tiger was having a little two-way miss. And again, I think that's what started it with Hank a little bit. They start missing it right and left. A great player, and they stand up over a hole, and they say, okay, where am I going to miss this? Where's my bailout? Okay, it's over there. And then the ball goes the other way. Then you're like, oh, that scrambles your brain. That'll make you be an insurance salesman real fast. I mean, because it's true. I mean, it's like you stand on a tee and you don't know if you're going to hit it right or left. Your brain is shot. Your little internal conversation you're having in there is going haywire. I mean, we got to know if it's going to fall to the right or it's going to fall to the left. We can't have a question mark there. That's number one. You can't do that. And so, long-winded answer, but I just, when you really think about Tiger right now, there's short games not there. You call it yip, you call it whatever you want. But he's got something going there, and there's no question in my mind that he has a driver yip. You can't hit it in some of these places that he's hitting it and not be able to have a conversation and say, you might be having something going on here in your brain.
Right.
Now, and to me that gets back to what we're talking about. It's in your brain. You're having this internal conversation. If in your internal conversation you're upstairs and saying, geez, I'm not as good as I used to be, and, man, I really have been struggling with some of this and been struggling with, my chipping, and why am I keep boning them over the green here, and man, I've had a lot of swing changes, and, I had to go in front of the whole world and say, I had a problem, and, and I got divorced, and I missed out, and whatever. You can make up the conversation. I'm just making up stuff, but, if all that stuff's going through your head, then I don't think you're as bulletproof as you used to be. And at the end of the day, you got to have a bulletproof mind. I mean, whether it's a sniper or a golf pro. I mean, you have to think. That's why, you look at Jack Nicklaus, probably one of the greatest golf minds ever of all times. And he's got to be sitting back going, what is this guy doing? I'm kind of glad he's not breaking my record, because if he stays with some of these, I don't know what he's doing. But, I mean, Jack, you can't tell me Jack's not sitting there going, well, my record looks like it's safe for now. And I wish Chris and Tiger the best. Trust me, I really do. I hope those two really succeed. But when you look at Jack's mind, I mean, he can't even tell you. Mike Malaska shared a story with me. He said, Mike Malaska, national teacher, you're an unbelievable guy, head of Nicholas Instruction Worldwide, and he and Jim Flick had an unbelievable, great relationship. And so, Mike's teaching, all this stuff for Nicholas Golf Worldwide. And he said, Jack, what do you think your percentage of makes were inside of 10 feet? I said, I made them all. And Mike's like, ooh, wait a minute, made them all. He's like, well, didn't you miss the one in '86 when you won the Masters? Didn't you miss the one on 12? He goes, no. He said, well, wait a minute, Jack, are you telling me that you had to miss something? And that's when Jack, he'll give you, no matter how hard the question is, if you notice in his interviews, no matter how hard the question, he gives you an immediate answer. Boom, he gives you this answer, and you go, wow, that was quick, and it was precise. And then after the third time Mike was asking, he said, listen, Mike, I hit the ball exactly where the putter face was lined up in impact, therefore I made it. Whether the green let it go in, that was a different thing. But I made the putt. And then you go, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, And then he goes, now let me ask you a question, Mike. Now Mike's sliding under the table. He's like, oh, my God, what's next, And, and here's Mike saying, okay, what is it, Jack? He's like, do you have your favorite place in your world? The place that brings you the most joy. And he goes, you got that place? And he goes, yeah, I do. And he goes, is yours standing over a 5-footer to win a major? And you hear Mike go, no. And he goes, that's why you teach and that's why I play. Because everybody's afraid of that, and I'm not. And he walked away. And now Mike's like totally under the table, like, what just happened? I just get hit by a freight train. But that's the way he thinks. Awesome.
Right.
They think that, that the guy said to him, also in the 12th hole, he hit a shank in the Masters. The guy said, hey, what was that shank? I didn't hit a shank. Well, yeah, you hit one on 12. I didn't hit one on 12. No, I didn't. Next question? We just saw it on film, but you're not going to say I did it. He can't remember any bad shot he's ever hit, but he can remember. He can tell you every single round, every shot that he played great. But he can't tell you the bad ones. Like, what did you shoot in 82 at the Open? No, remember. What did you shoot in 80? Oh, I won that one. Yeah, I won that one. That was, ball straw. He's unbelievable. But you think about it, and maybe that's the way we should live. You had Bobby Friend. You said Bobby Friend. It's a funny story.
Right.
Bobby, I've said this before in the past. It's probably the best compliment I could ever give someone. I think he's probably gotten more out of his career and the biggest overachiever than anyone in the career. On tour. He had 10 great years out there. And you say, well, how's that a compliment? Well, it's a compliment because he just had such a bulletproof mind. I told you the story off camera after the mic, but I said, if you went up to Bobby Friend right now and said, how many times do you think you could beat, Rory McIlroy down at Pikewood, where you're the director of golf down there? How many times do you think you could do that? I think he'd say 9, and I think he'd say he might know the course by the 10th time, and he might give me then. And you go, wait a minute, hold on a minute here. Bobby, you're trying to beat the guys on the Champions Tour. He's beating the world. But that's the way he lives. And wouldn't it be nice to live in that world for a little bit?
Yeah.
Where you're not given the gift of common sense or reality. If you think that you live in a world where you never missed a putt because the face was on line and the ball went off exactly where the face was at impact, well, that'd be pretty fun, and it seems like it would be a lot more fun than the fragile world that most of us live in. Most of us miss a 3-footer. We go, right. Oh my God, I just missed a 3-footer. What if I have another one? Well, wait a minute. What if you just say, the green, something wrong with the green, and my face was good there, and that's what putting's about. It's about the club face. It's not about the path. But I mean, if the face is good and the face is square to the target, that ball's going to go in the hole. And what if you just say, I hit a bug or something, something wrong with this green, and just walk off. It's just like it didn't happen. It would be a cool world to live in instead of the fragile one that I think so many of us. Think about it. You're on a free throw. It doesn't matter if it's golf or, shooting, whatever. I mean, if you're at the free throw line and you think, I can't miss, and then it doesn't go in, you say, well, there's something wrong with the rim there, and then you keep going and make the next one. Instead of going, well, geez, now I got to make this for the win, now I'm nervous. No. I mean, it seems like a state of mind where, and maybe that's where instruction might be going. Maybe we should be talking more about the mind. I mean, you get into all the mechanical stuff. Yeah, that's great, and you can learn all these numbers and all these angles and down angles and spin rates and spin lofts and all that stuff. That's great. Yeah, I got it. And there's probably a need for that. But why don't you just try to play the game? Why don't we get back to that simple form again? I think that we're making this game way, 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 way too complicated. Hit it solid, start it on line, curve it the right way. Period. End of story. You got any questions about that? Simple. Why are we talking about the rest of some of this stuff? No, I'm not saying that there's not room for it, but at the end of the day, it's not about just being like a smart guy. It's about helping your student move the ball forward. And I got it. I mean, we're at the Top 100 Teachers Summit down at Duke University in Edinburgh, and what a great guy, great spot down there, and we got to watch practice. All Top 100. We're in there watching Coach K do basketball practice, like playing, St. Andrews. It was, here's the guy that's his pinnacle of his career and had one of the greatest coaching careers ever, and you get to watch him in practice. He was intense. He was motivated. It was fast-paced. It was methodical. He handed us a sheet, and here you go. That's what we're practicing today. And every 10 minutes was scheduled. He'd have a kid set the clock. He'd look up at the clock. Okay, we got one more minute of this drill. Boom, he'd move to the next one. It was incredible. It was incredible to watch. And we're at the Top 100 Teacher Summit, and for 2 days, we're listening to smart guys give lessons and presentations, and we didn't see a ball go in the air. And everyone said, well, it's all about the ball. Okay. If it's all about the ball, how come we haven't seen one go in the air in 2 days? I started getting nervous. I didn't know what to do with myself. I started shaking. I was like, I haven't seen a ball go in the air in 2 days. That's spooky. Well, really. Hit it in the center of the face. Start it on line, curve it the right way. Pretty easy thought process there.
So much to react to and all the things you just said there.
I'm sorry if I don't know where that all came from. I just kind of went out there. Sorry. Sorry about that.
And that's why it's so much fun having you on the show, and the hour has gone in the blink of an eye because you're so great about taking an idea and running with it. So I appreciate it. Don't stop. I got a couple of things that in writing down and all the things you just talked about. Let's talk about first of all about Jack. One of the things that I've always admired about Jack, and one of the things you talked about is exactly right. He can tell you every shot, every iron, every play he made in a tournament which he won. Remembers nothing about any of the others, which I think is fantastic. Which gets back to your thought about the mind. But one of the things that he's also talked about is he would, at the beginning of the golf season, he and Jack Grout, and Jim Flick later on in his career would, start from the basics as if he knew nothing, starting with the grip and getting himself back going and all those sorts of things. But at that point, after all of that, and as he got out on tour, he became responsible for his own game. It wasn't, every time he had a bad shot, he was running back to Jack Grout or Jim Flick to understand what the problem was or any of that sort of stuff. He became responsible for his own game. Today, guys are traveling around with an entourage. They got a swing coach, they got a mental coach, they got, a publicist, a manager. I mean, there's so many things going on.
You got a fitness guy, you got a nutritionist, you got your massage therapist. They got 7-8 people with them.
Right. So, I mean, at that point, do you have so many things, so many thoughts in your mind, and you're running back to – I got to believe Tiger Woods, at this point, if he could sort of shake the Etch-a-Sketch in his mind and clear it all out, knows what he's doing wrong. I mean, he's Tiger Woods, for crying out loud. He's one of the greatest golfers of all time. Shouldn't he know by now what he needs to do instead of running to this coach, a that coach, a different guy, going through 4 guys? Who's the next guy? That's where I think he goes wrong is – get back to your own game. To your point, way back when at the beginning, Eric, he was great in 1997. Why he changed his golf swing is beyond me. I don't understand that piece either. Why change what was so great? But guys seem to do that. Padraig Harrington did it after he did the potty slam. He changed his golf swing. Why you change his golf swing?
Exactly.
Go back to own it.
Well, we see that. We see these guys tonight, and I listen. I get that you want forward progress. I got it. I get that. But at the end of the day, you can't go totally against what you've always done. It just doesn't work.
Right.
And for example, you look at Tiger, and if you pull up the 1997 Masters, on his driver, he moved a foot off the golf ball to the back. Okay? You see him laterally move a significant amount. Okay? Then he crossed the line just a hair, and Tiger has a very, very violent, fast, hard transition. And it brought the club perfect on plane, and he had time to get back to the ball. Okay. Now, fast forward, and now we're going to go to a Foley, and we're going to say, okay, well, we need you to stay more centered. We need you to turn around this. His golf swing does not look like Justin Rose, and it doesn't look like Hunter Mahan. Doesn't look like him. But you're trying to do that a little bit. And we're going to stay more centered. When you give a guy like that, who's got a violent transition, you're going to center him, well, he's not going to have time, and the club's always going to be late, therefore he's always going to block it. So, to me, that doesn't fit the DNA of what the human being was. That doesn't fit what he used to be. He can do it. He can do a lot of this stuff because he's Tiger Woods, best player on the planet, and he could do a lot of this stuff. He could make stuff work that maybe it shouldn't have worked. But I think you're right. I think that when you look at Jack, always had a nice big high cut, didn't change it, always loved it, and went with it. And Flick didn't try to go to him and say, hey, I see you cutting it. Maybe I think we need to get 10 more yards. We need to draw it. He didn't do that. He didn't do that.
Right.
I loved it when Butch was working with Tigers. What are you working on this year? Well, we looked at his tour stats, and everything that he's not number 1 in, that's what we're going to work at. Okay, there's a brilliant idea. Okay, think about it. In 2000, when he was number 1 in driving and total distance and this and that, and he was 43rd in bunkers or something. We're going to work on bunkers this year. Yeah. Why don't you work on your weakness? Why don't you?
Right.
If you're doing something better than everyone on tour, why are we going to change that?
Right.
We're not. We're just going to get better at the other things. And that's the way they used to look at it. That's the way Bush looked at it. He talked about it. He talked about it, publicly. Well, what are you going to work on? Well, everything that he's not top 100 or top 1 in on the categories of the tour, that's what we're going to work on. And wow. Isn't that what we're all trying to do? Just study our weakness, find our weakness, and get better at it?
Right.
That's what I think you try to do. If you're number 1 at something, I don't think I'd change it. Doing pretty good.
Exactly right.
You might tweak it, but you're not going to change it.
Right. So let's go all the way back. If Tiger Woods comes to you now for help, do you jump at the chance to work with him? Is it a blessing? Or might you pause for a minute and go, thanks anyhow?
Oof. That's quite a question. First of all, when I was down in South Florida, as the director of instruction at the Breakers in Palm Beach there, and I taught tour players, and I taught some mini tour players and a lot of mini tour players and a couple girls and it was great. There are a tremendous pull against your family. And, I mean, I live here in Oakmont now, which, like I said, it was 11 degrees this morning. This is not a hub for tour players. This is no Jupiter. It's cold. And there's not many Steve Strickers out there that can live up in wherever he lives in Wisconsin or whatever it is and be good players. I mean, it's not there. So we were talking. I was down into a corporate outing in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and then I went down to Florida for the PGA show festivities, so to speak, and I was away from home for almost 2 weeks, and that's a long time. I've got twins that are 10. My son's Max and Riley, and then I have my son Grady, who's 6, and so I got 3 boys in the house, and it's a very active world, and and I don't want to miss them growing up. So when you're talking about teaching someone like Tiger, who's going to expect your time, and I have a job here. Would I do it? You'd be lying if you'd say no. You'd be lying if you didn't say, yeah, I'd like to do that. But it's a huge, it's a huge time, constraint, and I've taken a different role in my life right now. And when you're working with tour players, I mean, I'm getting calls all the time, at night, at dinner, hey, I'm hitting it to the right, what do I do? Okay, about those faces open, about to strengthen your grip a little bit, release it, whatever. But, you're getting these calls all the time, and so you're away from your family a lot. So would I take it? Would I want to work? I'd love to work with Tiger. They'd be awesome. And but I'm not the same kind of guy he's been working with. I can tell you that. I mean, I'm not going to go out there and listen. I know all these numbers too, but I'm not going to go out there and preach biomechanics, and I'm not going to go preach numbers. I'm going to say, okay, what in the world are we trying to do with this golf ball? Let's get back to playing the game again. If you want to draw it, let's figure out how to do that. If you want to cut it, let's figure out how to do that, and then let's see it repeat. But we can all, we're all, when someone comes to me and I watch them walk to the tee and I see that there's something wrong with their gait pattern, the way they walk, well, instantly I know that there's something wrong biomechanically. And now I can move around a lot of things from that and try and figure out what I need to do to help that person. I don't think that I need to, we're all biomechanists in a way. I mean, when you're, if you've gotten to a level that, that we are as teachers, and, I've been, lucky to be in this Top Golf Magazine Top 100 thing, and it's great. I mean, when you round that stuff, and, I worked for Randy Myers, who is one of the greatest fitness trainers out there, travels around on the tour doing it, and now at Sea Island. I worked for him at PGA National back when I was playing on the Golden Bear Tour. I was working as in the gym, scrubbing the treadmills and doing some personal training as a golf-specific personal trainer, and I learned from Randy. And so, I guess where I'm going with that is that we all have a really good idea of the body, but I just think that when you're talking about teaching a great player, it can't be such a mechanical move. It has to flow. It has to be on autopilot, and we got to know it's going to fall one way or another. And you can't have a two-way miss. I knew that from when I was playing. When I started running it both ways, and then I'd have this high-rate virus, then I knew I was done. And, because you just can't play that way. So would you, at the end of the day, would you like the opportunity? Yeah. There's positives and negatives. It'd be hard to miss my family to have to figure something out that way. But pretty fascinating question though.
All right, so we've got about 10 minutes or so left in the show, Eric. I want to get to a couple of the lessons that you have on your site, which is fantastic, by the way. EricJohnsonGolf.com. Your site's wonderful, and I think you've actually done some things since the last time we talked. So
yeah, we upgraded the site, made it responsive, and my wife Hannah just busted her butt and really made that thing look great. And also Georgina and Chris Lewis at Shazam Media there, they did a fantastic job on the site. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is. One of the things that that I subscribe to, that Gary Player has come on this show and talked about. Our friend Bob Friend Jr. talked about it a couple of weeks ago, that the majority of the game is played from 100 yards in, which is why chipping and putting are so important. And one of the areas that that I get confused on, so many of my hacker buddies get confused on, is when you're chipping around the green, we tend to use the same club no matter where we're at, whether it's a sand wedge, a 60-degree, a pitching wedge, whatever it is. And one of the lessons that you put out there is understanding that the club roll ratio, the club roll to carry ratio. Talk about that a little bit in club selection and what maybe can help us do a little bit better job around the greens.
Yeah, well, it was funny because I teach non-technical stuff. At least I try to, anyways, and some of my buddies were busting my stones about hold on, I got to divide this, and hey guys, it's just a ratio here, but some of my friends aren't smart. I went to Mississippi State, so I don't have really smart friends, but most sorry guys out there, but most of my guys are like, hey, but that chipping ratio is if you think about it, if you're 4 paces off of the green, okay, so you're going to walk on, you're 4 paces off the green, and then from where the green starts, you're going to add 1 more pace. So we're 5 total paces off of the green, to where we want to land that ball in a little safety zone. I prescribe to the notion that anytime you can get the ball on the ground, you get it on the ground. If you can putt it, because the average player is not very skilled in chipping and pitching. You just saw these new golf magazine and these articles coming about the average player and all the rounds that they track. They're not very good at chipping and pitching, and they don't hit it as far as they think. So if you can roll it, it's the safest thing you can possibly do. So if you can't putt it, now you got to go through a little fringe, or you got to go through a little rough. Now we got to chip it. If the ball, the definition of a chip, let me start with this. The definition of a chip is that it rolls more than it flies. That's as easy as you can get it. It rolls more than it flies. Yeah. Pitch flies more than it rolls. Okay, so when you're chipping it, let's say I've got 5 paces onto the green. And let's say I quickly walk that out, and I have 15 paces to the hole. Once it gets on the green, then it's got to roll another 15 paces. I know that immediately that's my 9-iron, because a sand wedge, for every yard or pace that it flies in the air, it will roll 1 yard. Okay, so if you're flying 5, it's going to roll 5. A pitching wedge is 1-to-2 ratio, meaning if you fly it 5 paces, it rolls 10. A 9-iron is, if it flies 5, it's a 1-to-3 ratio. It means it's going to roll 15 paces. So it just gives you an idea of which club to use. Now, you're going to have faster greens and slower greens, uphill, downhill. That you got to factor that in a little bit. But most people, if you think about it, if you had 20 yards to the green, if you had 20 yards to the hole, and you're trying to fly at 10 paces out onto the green, well, that's harder to do than something landing right off the fringe and just rolling over there. And the closer you are to something, the easier it is to hit. So it doesn't make sense to me to just keep one club and then try to manipulate that thing. To me, I think you got to use them all. Yeah. So hopefully that's not too technical, but the ratio just tells us.
No, that's good stuff.
Yeah, it's called the 12 rule, and it's a 12 rule. What's that? Well, if you take 12 minus any club, let's say you got an 8-iron, well, 12 minus 8 is 4. That means the 8-iron rolls 4 times more than it flies. And let's say you figured out the ratio. It rolls 4 times more. It rolls 4 times more than it flies. Well, what club do I use? Well, 12 minus 4 is 8. So it always equals. It always equals the same thing. So
there's something handy to have you.
Yeah, it always equals the ratio. 5-iron. What's your 5-iron? Well, it's 7. It's going to roll 7 times more. 12 minus 5, 7. Even a Mississippi Stater can figure that out. But that's how it works.
One of the other tips, and you mentioned about keeping the ball on the ground and putting. One of the tips, another one you have out there is one that Arnold Palmer taught you regarding chipping versus putting when you're off the green, particularly if you've got a short mode runoff area. Do you mind sharing that tip as well?
Yeah, no, that was awesome. AP That was during the Palmer Cup matches, and I'm sitting in my office now. I'm looking at the picture here with the team, and he's sitting right in the middle. I'm right behind him, and what a man! You know, I mean, just he's the king of cool. Everybody wants to be like that guy. But we're at the Palmer Cup matches, and he was yakking about putting it, and he shared it with Phil, and that's when Phil started putting it around the greens at Augusta, and he's like, watch this. He's on the third hole of par 5 at, Latrobe, and he puts this thing up the hill and goes about 4 feet, and, everyone else would sit there and chunk it and then bone it, and, he puts it up there 4 feet, taps it in for birdie, no big deal, just another birdie for the king, and he started talking about it, and, when you really start analyzing most players, it's so much safer to just keep the ball on the ground. Putt it. It's the flattest club. It's meant to roll. Even if you miss it a little bit, it kind of gets over there somewhere. And, when your nerves get a little, you get a little, sensitive and fidgety, which we get later in life. Your nerves start getting a little not quite as good as they used to be, but, just get a putter out and whack it up there somewhere. I mean, just get it, you're going to putt it up there somewhere within 4 or 5 feet. Where, on that one website that I did for Golf Magazine, I show we're on the back of number 3, and I chunk it just a little bit. It almost gets to the top and then rolls behind my feet, and so, you don't always have to grab that 60-degree wedge and think we're Phil Mickelson. Get it on the ground. Play. I'm not telling you that you don't feel like it, you can do it every time. Go ahead, but I'm just saying the safest play is to putt it. Get it on the ground, get it rolling up there somewhere close to the hole. Because you're seeing it with Tiger a little bit right now. I mean, when I saw him putt it on, I think it was the 13th hole, I knew he had a problem there. Because most of the time he would have, and even the commentators said, ooh, the old Tiger would have tried to make this thing. And he's like, you know what, I'm just trying to get it somewhere on the green. He's trying to get it over there somewhere. And he got it to about 3-4 feet, and he made the putt. He made par, but he didn't make birdie. And I think that's the difference, and that's when you can kind of tell when if someone's comfortable with, with chipping and pitching, they're going to pitch it. But if you're not, your nerves are getting a little, afraid, then you're going to grab a putter and you're going to putt it over there somewhere. And it's a very effective shot. Thanks, AP, for that one. I mean, he's the king of cool, man. Everybody can learn something from Arnold Palmer. Most gracious guy I've ever met. Very, very magnetic. I mean, you shake his hand and you just get that jolt where you're like, wow, this is the king. Pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that tip for putting it is, what you see, hackers like me out there doing when we try to do that is we sort of jab at it. We take a short backswing. And then we try to force the putter through the ball in a longer, through swing. So part of that is to, elongate your backswing, right?
Yeah, putting, off-green putting it's all about backswing, and it's not a short to a long. You don't over-accelerate it. If I was standing right next to you and I was going to toss you a ball, I don't think you'd want me to take a short backswing and then fire that ball at you. I don't think you'd want me to do it. I think you'd want me to toss it to you. And that's basically the same kind of thought process. You take a nice big backswing. It's a very calm acceleration. It's not an over-acceleration. Over-acceleration, anybody that tells you that, whoa, we got to accelerate that putter to the hole, wrong. It's terrible info. I mean, we don't have enough time to get into it, but, the putter on most great players is in a very, very, albeit slight, it's in a slow-down period. The ball's way forward in your stance. It's pendular motion. It's coming in, and there's not a lot of through swing to it. Tiger, in the olden days, had the shortest fall-through of anybody. I mean, and you look at Rory and Phil, those guys aren't taking a huge through swing. They're boom, and they're trying to keep the face on line. And it's about a backswing that controls the pace, not a forward swing. So if you're trying to over-accelerate it, you're always going to be a terrible putter, and you're going to lip out. And that's what I think we saw with Phil all the time, and especially on those short putts. Very, very fast speed putter. I mean, he just couldn't figure out the pace.
All right, well, Eric, before we let you go, remind our listeners, again, it's ericjohnsongolf.com is your website, but talk about how our listeners can find you on social media as well.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn now. I said I was never going to do that stuff, but I kind of enjoy it. But it's you can find me at Eric Johnson, and I'd love to see you come visit the website. And, Chris, I've said this before, you're a wonderful host. It's awesome being in here with you. And to the military, I say this every time. I know you guys are suffering a little bit out there, but it is for a noble cause. Anyone who threatens the United States of America, doesn't deserve to be here. So shoot straight and be safe out there, guys. We appreciate it.
Eric, thank you so much for joining me again this morning. Like always, the hour flies by every time you're on the show because I have so much fun listening to you share stories and getting the opportunity to talk with you. Thank you so much for being a great friend of the show, and I mean it sincerely. You're in my dream fivesome because you would make that round of golf so much fun to be a part of. I really appreciate you.
Hey, I appreciate you, bud. Look forward to seeing you, talking to you again.
All right, take care, Eric. All the best to you and your family and everyone out there at Oakmont.
Thanks, Phil. Appreciate you. Thanks. See you later.
All right. Take care, Eric. Eric Johnson. I tell you what, and boy, you be a part of this show for the last hour. There's no one more fun to talk to than Eric Johnson because he can take an idea and he runs with it, and the stories that he puts around it are so much fun to listen to. And next thing you know, a blink of an eye, and it's an hour later. So thanks to Eric for being a part of the show. Before we close up shop today, I want to remind you again about the great book that's out there that's called The Golden 18, written by Roger Schiffman, and the photography is by one of our friends and one of the greatest photographers anywhere on the planet, Jim Mandeville. Jim, as you know, is the director of photography at the Nicklaus Companies. The book showcases some of Mr. Nicklaus's greatest course designs. The stories about the courses are great, and the photography is simply outstanding. In fact, it's so good, you're going to want a second copy of the book just so you can take some of the pictures out and frame them. To get your copy, go to nicklaus.com and hover over the products and partners link at the top, and then click on books and videos. If you love golf and stunning photography, you're going to love this book. And I want to remind you again about our wonderful new sponsor, our friends over at Custom Golf. Great folks over there. I tell you what, I'm so pleased to have Custom Golf Bags USA as a new sponsor on the show. Please go out there to Facebook and look up again Custom Golf Bags USA. And give those guys a like. They've got so many great designs. They can customize your golf bag anywhere from the carry bag up to the tour staff bag. So, you want to look for a way to get your logo and your product designs out there and get it on the golf course and have your brand being carried for 18 holes. And then as a showpiece when you put it at the bag stand and you're traveling around the country playing golf, this is the way to go. Custom Golf Bags USA. Their stuff is top-notch, first class. You're going to love the construction of the golf bag and how beautiful they make it look, how beautiful they make your brand look. So again, go out there on Facebook, find out more information from them, and get yourself a wonderful golf bag. Custom Golf Bags USA. All right, folks, it's time for us to put an end to this show, to go on, and I hope you guys have a great afternoon. We can't thank you enough for making the decision to listen to this show today. We want to thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you the most. Please also check out our sister show, Thursday Night Tailgate, with me, my co-host Bob Lazari, and our announcer Joe LaGianusa. That show airs live every Thursday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Blog Talk Radio. Also starting at 10:15 Eastern Time on Armed Forces Radio, and on Friday nights you can hear us from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time over at Boost Radio. And then again, you can find our show starting at 11 o'clock on Armed Forces Radio as well. So we're joined every week by legends from around the NFL and the CFL as well. Please also check out both shows on Facebook. Give us a like. That's important to us too. And you can find us online at nextonthetee.net for this show and ThursdayNightTailgate.com as well. You can stream or download any of our archive episodes for free and keep up to date with who our future guests are going to be on both of those websites. Again, one more time, thank you so much for choosing to listen to the show today. We appreciate you the very most. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.